Hello, and welcome to Pod Sothoth, a Lovecraft book club. I'm your host, Todd Beardsley, and I have with me tonight a very special guest.
It me, Claire.
Hi, Claire.
I'm the special guest.
Very special. As this is an even-numbered episode, what follows is a discussion of HP Lovecraft's The Doom That Came to Sarnath, first published in the June 1920 issue of The Scot. Please be forewarned. This is a horror podcast, so it might not be suitable for all listeners. So, Sarnath and its doom.
All right.
I mean, I have some things to say about it.
Yeah, no, I like it when you... I
you prefer when I start?
I want to provide color commentary.
All right.
You build the frame.
All right, so The Doom That Came to Sarnath. So, this is a story that is not about a lovely lady.
I was just in my head. I was totally a lovely lady.
It's a story, and it takes place in Lovecraft's prehistory period. So this is like in the long, long ago, before anything, this imagined past of when men just started to rule the earth. And that's where we start our story, right? Like we start off actually not in Sarnath, but in the gray stone city of Ib.
Okay, but how do you pronounce the land?
Well, I pronounce it. We'll see if you would listen to the podcast.
No, I won't, because
I pronounced it Mnar.
Mnar.
It's
Mnar.
like it's where Steve Mnuchin's family is from.
Okay. All right. See, if you're from the Midwest, you're familiar with the Home Goods brand, and that's not Home Goods. It's like a Home Depot or Lowe's called Menards. And
is it MN?
No.
Okay.
But that's what I'm looking at. I'm thinking every time I look at you can save big money at Menards.
Now, I mean, of course, that makes me go do work to go find a YouTube version of that commercial so I can drop that.
Save big money at Menards.
So first off, let's talk about these beings of him. I mean, I think I'll just jump right into the racism, right? Like,
oh my God, he's so mean.
He's racist against the beings of Ib with their flabby lips and their curious ears and their kind of dopey eyes, I guess. And they're very odd and ugly is what he has to say. Like, as a people, they're odd and ugly, and they're green, and they're not human,
they're
right?
Supposed to look like frogs.
It's not easy being green.
They worship a great water lizard, Bakrog. A wazer lizard.
Yo, kind of feel like God.
They worship a great water lizard named Bakrog, but that's their deal. And they live on the side of this still lake. And then men came, the dark shepherd folk.
Yeah, those dark shepherd folk arrived with their fleecy flocks.
Does he say fleecy flocks?
Yep.
Wow. Fleecy flocks for which to fleece with.
Yes. Fleecy flocks sells fleas by the flea shore. Now we're coming into this with our foreknowledge of his racism. So it's like, I mean, you can have scary, ugly creatures and it doesn't necessarily, but it's just the way he does the show. He does the tell rather than the show of like, they are so ugly and scary and gross.
Yep. I do like, so when the dark fleecy fleecemen come in, and they come and they're like, man, they're starting to build their city of Sarnath. They're like, okay, this is a cool place to live, but boy, those beings of Ib are super gross, so let's go kill them. And then they do. Like,
oh my God, I know. It's like was there any kind of conflict between? No.
They just didn't like that they would hang around.
They just thought they were ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
they total mean girled them.
So that's against the rules, and you can't sit with us. Whatever.
And not only do they just go slaughter them, it's not even a battle. They use their spears to like poke them into the lake so they don't have to touch them. Which is like, I do feel like they're very Mackenzie Zales about this. They're like, ew.
Okay. Oh my God, ew, David.
I cannot believe that I am referencing Friends for the second time tonight. Listeners, I did this earlier, not in the podcast. But it's like that episode where Ross has to take over for Phoebe's massage stuff for one night, and because she can't work for something, and so he has to massage this really ugly guy, and so he uses like a spatula or something to do.
Okay, now I'm going to touch you.
That's what it made me think of. But you're right; it was very Mackenzie Zales, like ew, get in the water.
So really, the preamble to the story is the doom that came to Ib, and then we move on to Sarnath.
Again,
because fuck those guys.
We're the doom.
Yeah. So the city of Ib was there for a while, many eons, and then the dudes show up, and then they kill everybody, and then he goes into how Sarnath. Basically a retelling of like how Sarnath became like the capital of Minar, and it was like the greatest city ever, and it's the jewel of all men and all that. We
can't skip over what happened right after.
Oh yeah, of course. You're right.
No, it's okay. So they did all this murder, and all they saved was the stone idol chiseled in the likeness of Bokrug.
Bokrug. Yeah.
Bokrug, the water lizard. Okay, so then these young warriors who really just slaughter. It sounds like there was no fight. These young murderers, really.
Right.
They took it back to Sarnath. They took this idol back there and then put it up, I guess. And then the next morning, their high priest was dead.
Yep.
And was scrawled upon the altar of the water lizard, Doom.
Doom, the shaky sign of doom.
Doom. And it's in all capital letters.
All caps, and that's why when you read it aloud, you have to say doom.
Doom. Yeah.
So I believe that this is the shaky sign of doom. Like, this is why every Fantasy Flight Lovecraft game has a doom mechanic. This is the timer that this guy sets. And we don't know.
Which I have a whole comment about that.
Oh, yeah.
Too, but
yeah. I suspect I know what your comment is, but I don't know.
About close to 1,000 years?
Pretty good run.
Yeah. I mean, like, any civilization is going to crumble after 1,000 years.
The doom that came to Sarnath eventually.
And nobody would even think to tie this back to that.
Absolutely not.
It just it was like the slowest moving revenge ever.
Yeah, Bokrug is a little slow in the draw there.
Yeah. Revenge is best served thousands of years later when I get around to it.
Yeah, like when you're living, so like that's the thing. The bulk of the story is the growth of Sarnath and like how awesome it is. And so if you're in like year 500 after the destruction of Ib, things are pretty good. Like Doom is 500 years off. No one even knows that it's coming. It's not like it's even a prophecy of Doom. Like no one, like the dude's name, what's his name? Tarnish.
No.
Doesn't even say like in 1,000 years the city will fall. Like he doesn't do anything like that, which you would do in a modern story today.
Right.
And then like at year 500 everything's cool. Year 700 everything's even better. Year 800 everything is awesome. And now like that is a more complicated story. Yeah. I have some notes, Lovecraft.
Right.
And like maybe a little bit of foreshadowing for the residents.
I don't think anyone is even.
It takes them by surprise.
Is even concerned about the fact that he's written Doom on there. Maybe it did say something about the priests are a little nervous about it.
The priests are like, I don't know about that Doom thing. Well, it's fine, probably.
Yeah. I mean, it's 1,000 years is like more than 10 generations, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. People have moved on.
Not my problem.
Right? I mean, because the natural tendency for people is to think that if there is some kind of world-ending situation, it's going to happen in my lifetime.
Yeah, momentarily.
Because it's inconceivable that life will go on after I am dead.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's like a good psychological read of like why doomsday cults happen.
Right.
But there's no doomsday cult in Sarnath.
No.
They're totally unaware of their fate.
So there were generations of people who lived and died just fine.
Yep. And Sarnath is a pretty rockin' place. Like, from when you read it, I'm pretty sure like you're intended to envision Rome, you know, like there is the Colosseum, and there's specifically a recounting of like, you know, they'd have these cool fights in the Colosseum, very gladiatorial, very, very Rome, you know, height of Rome, like Augustus kind of era Rome. And even flooding this Colosseum and having sea battles, which is also historical. This is another thing that Rome did. They would flood the Colosseum because they were all into aqueducts and shit. Like this is a thing Romans do. And so, and recreating like naval battles and stuff in the Colosseum.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. How did they keep water in there?
I don't know. There are credible accounts of this.
I mean, I guess they wouldn't, when they say flooding it, they wouldn't necessarily mean like
2
flooding
feet
it.
or
Yeah,
something.
exactly. It's just like a big old slushy puddle.
Enough to have rafts to putter about and recreate, you know, that time they like kick the shit out of Crete or whatever. So that's very historical. And I'm positive we're intended to envision that, like kind of a mashup of, you know, the height of Greek and Roman culture just kind of smushed together. But we'll hang on to that. We'll just get through the story here. Okay. So everything's going great. And then in year 990
before we get to the end,
yes?
though, I have to. Okay, so I felt like in reading this, it totally made me think of like a game of Mad Libs, where it was insert name of gemstone, insert name of rare mineral, insert name of rock, insert.
Well, since you brought it up, here is one line of my notes: chrysolite, onyx, bronze, some stone no longer known among men. Chalcedony.
I know this because there's a street named that in San Diego. Now that's how they pronounce it in San Diego. I don't know if that's how it's supposed to be pronounced.
I had to look it up.
We said Chalcedony.
I love Chalcedony even better. Beryl, lapis lazuli, which I only know from Minecraft. Sardonyx, carbuncle, which I thought was always just like a bloody blister.
Yeah,
it's not. It's a red gemstone. Yeah, red gemstone, ivory, and zircon. These are all of the materials named in Sarnath. I went through and picked out all of the materials that Sarnath is made out of, and it all sounds lovely.
So do you think he had like I'm
sure he had like a geology textbook
exactly.
or something nearby.
Oh, now this. Yeah, it was totally Mad Libs.
You know, and there's no real reason for all of these. Like 3 of these things are some kind of quartz. They're just like slightly different shades of impurities in these quartz. So yeah, geologists love Sarnath.
It would be, I can imagine. It would be super interesting.
All right. So, Sarnath is built up. It has all this junk. It's got crazy furniture all over the place. It's got towers that are like 300 cubits tall. A cubit is about 1.5 feet. So very tall towers. Some towers so tall that you forget that you're under a ceiling until it rains. Then you notice it's not getting rained on.
Oh, I know another. Okay. It totally sounded like if you had, like a 10-year-old boy and you were like, okay,
imagine
I need you to design a casino in Las Vegas. Go with it. Okay. And after he'd seen some of the casinos in Las Vegas, after he'd seen like Caesar's Palace and Bally's and all that stuff, like this is what how he would describe it.
All right. So I love this. I also want to go to that casino.
I know.
I want someday. Okay. If you're listening, Sheldon, who I'm sure is a giant fan, or Mr. Wynn or whomever, or Mr. MGM.
Yes, Mr. Bally's.
If you're listening,
Mr. Tropicana.
You need a Lovecraft-themed casino just called Sarnath.
Oh, my God.
And lots of mosaics. What's the one? Aria has a ton of mosaics on the floor. It's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I think Sarnath, like the temples of Sarnath probably look a lot like the Aria Atrium in Las Vegas. One day we'll go back. You have anything before the end?
No, I'm sorry. I kept
interrupting. It's fine.
That's all I have.
So, year 990 rolls around and everybody starts losing their shit. They're like, oh my God, we're going to have the coolest party.
Party like it's 999.
That's right. They clearly mark time from, that time that they destroyed the city of Ib.
Yeah, what a bunch of assholes. That is how they mark time.
Can you imagine having a national holiday
I know.
commemorating
the destruction of an entire race
of an entire civilization by an invading force?
Who would do
bastards?
Mayflower boat. Do, 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 do.
So 990 rolls around. Everybody gets ready for the big party in a decade. Big party happens. Princes from around the land of Minar and beyond show up. Princes and tourists?
Is that what it said?
I think so.
Wow.
I'm
travelers.
Princes and travelers. I kept reading as tourist. I don't know why. I like tourists better.
I do too.
So it's like Thurston Howell the Third.
Yeah.
Oh, Sarnath. Oh, it was lovely this time of year. Oh, come on. Come on, lovey. So they show up, they're camping, it's great. It's like every festival that's ever happened all on the same day.
Exactly. It is Coachella plus ACL plus whatever that big thing is they have in Australia.
Bonnaroo.
Lollapalooza. Plus Lollapalooza.
Ozfest.
Right.
Warped Tour. It's all happening right now, right?
Imagine the lines for the bathrooms.
They're on the shore of a lake.
Oh, God. Yeah, do they? I mean, they must use the lake for
it's got to be
drinking.
Sewage and sewage.
Oh, God.
Just like everybody did.
You know what?
Up until like the 18th century. Maybe that's the
came back to get them. Right, exactly. That has nothing to do with the poor.
Maybe there was a year-long party, and then suddenly,
cholera. Yeah, I love you.
Suddenly, cholera. Hey, everybody.
Hey, how's it going? I'm cholera. Oh, God. Why does everyone do this when I come to a party?
Oh, cholera. It's not actually described. Well, it's kind of described where you have these glowing lights in the lake and a mist comes down. Does it come down? I think it comes down from the moon,
It arose from the lake to meet the moon.
Sky was all purple, there were people running everywhere.
Ah, yes. So I want to say in Chaosium's Call of Cthulhu from like 3rd edition from like 1983. There's a mention of the ghosts of the beings of Ib. I haven't seen another. I've been looking for a reference from this. This might be a Chaosium invention.
Okay.
Where when the beings of Ib were killed, their ghosts went to the moon and they were hanging out there for 1,000 years, biding their time.
Just waiting to, okay.
And then they come down.
That is some petty shit. I mean, and I respect that. Like they were waiting.
And this was like all Bachrog's deal.
They're like
Bachrog
no.
was orchestrating this whole thing.
We're going to wait until they are having a massive party.
And because maybe they want to wait for all the other people to come, all the princes and tourists from all over Niar and beyond.
Them? Like they didn't kill them.
And I was like, men did this, so men will pay.
Yeah, but that's okay. So then that's the thing, is that all he does. Then he goes and describes all of the people that escaped.
He does.
So I feel like not that many people actually paid.
Well, most people. So the gates fling open, and everybody runs out of the city. Right, the city is abandoned basically in one night. The impression I got was everybody who was in the city driven insane immediately. Like from whatever happened.
Okay.
It was just so horrifying and terrible, and they won't talk about it and they won't speak of it. The princes and tourists that were camping outside the city, they leave before or as the hubbub is happening.
They don't really. They're like
bad scene. Out.
Yeah, the cops are here.
Yep. So. What's the festival? That's the shitty Woodstock.
Firefest.
Yes. Okay, so everybody leaves. They go to the river. And then they don't even know why. Like they don't remember, and they're also probably mad or whatever. But anyway, the point is, Sarnath is now abandoned.
I want to know more. So I will say a good story leaves you wanting more.
Yeah. I can totally see this as like a role-playing kind of adventure going in here. Go poke around in Sarnath and see what you can find because, reasons. That we left some magic MacGuffin in there and we got to go get it. And or something, I think it would be great. Like, and you can have a lot of fun, like as a D&D person, like you could have a lot of fun with these descriptions, maybe modernizing a little bit, but talking about poking through abandoned temples and all that jazz. I wanted to say that Sarnath shows up in the Dreamlands, but it does not. Not that I could find. I could have sworn it did in like Silver Key. There's a mention of Sarnath still being extant in the Dreamlands, but I couldn't find anything like that. I did find the real city of Sarnath, which is in India. It is on the River Ganges, like everything, I guess, in India. But that's not this Sarnath. And while it did exist in 1920, Lovecraft claims not to have known about it and thought he came up with the name by himself. It's mentioned in The Nameless City and The Mountains of Madness, two other later Lovecraft stories, and mentioned as a historical place. So that puts it pretty squarely like in the real world prehistory, not far off Dreamlands kind of stuff. We already went through all the building materials. It was reprinted later in Marvel Tales and Weird Tales. And that's all the notes I have on this. Oh, and so I often look at, like, my first reference is the HP Lovecraft Encyclopedia. And Sarnath is not in the index, weirdly enough.
Really?
Yeah. All the mentions of Sarnath are under Doom That Came to Sarnath. So there's no index. There's no specific index for Sarnath, which is weird for that book, especially. Like tends to call out place and people names pretty consistently, but not in the index. So ST on your next edition, gonna have to fix that index.
Oh yeah,
and
I don't know. But I would go there. It sounds like a great place.
What, Sarnath?
Yeah, I mean,
real Sarnath.
I'm sure real Sarnath is also great.
I'm sure it's lovely.
That's not what I was thinking of.
No, I want to go to the Sarnath Hotel and Casino.
Yes, exactly.
But it's in Reno.
That's the Doom.
Yep. That's all I got. You got anything else?
No, I enjoyed this story because, I mean, I have a lot of criticisms of his writing. Mm-hmm. I'm not a writing critic because I don't know anything about it, but I mean, I do. But he also just has a way with telling a story. You can really envision it.
Yeah.
And it made me, it just, even the way he described something is spooky.
Yeah, there is like, I guess like the title, The Doom That Came to Sarnath. You know that the entire civilization that is around Sarnath is predicated on this act of genocide.
Yeah, so it's coming.
Yeah, and so, and it's justified.
The Doom
right?
is coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, right, for Lovecraft. Like they did actually get their comeuppance.
Right.
The racists got their own and, or speciesist or whatever.
Which I wonder, would we still feel that way? What if they felt bad about it? What if
they don't seem to feel bad about it?
I know that's the thing is they keep celebrating it.
Yeah.
So it's people who had no part in it.
Uh-huh.
It would be one thing if, that's interesting to me.
There were no reparations.
That, they were still woo, yeah, remember our ancestors killed those frog boys. Yeah, they were still jerks about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it seemed like the whole civilization was built around this concept of being jerks.
Yeah.
We do kind of cheer the doom that comes to Sarnath, but as you're reading the story, there is, I agree with you that there is the shadow of history is cast over this city despite all its magnificence. So it also reminds me strongly, right, of Ozymandias. Mm-hmm. Especially at the end, which I'm sure is intentional. It's very, Gothic, classical. That's Shelley, right? I think it is.
I think so, yes.
Yeah. Oh, and I would be remiss. I think by law, anytime anyone talks about the doom that came to Sarnath, you have to mention Lord Dunsany. Some people, the modern interpretation of Lovecraft, from what I can tell, is like comparisons to Dunsany are superficial. He might borrow some phrases now and then, but Lovecraft is his own thing, and he's not Dunsanayan or whatever. And I don't even know if I'm pronouncing Dunsany correctly. And as far as I can tell, no one knows how to pronounce it. Unless your name is Dunsany.
Yeah.
So if your name is Dunsany, please write in and tell us how to pronounce your name, as always.
That's all I got.
That's all I got, too. Hey, let's see if we have anything in the Twitter DMs. Short story is Sean Patrick is still listening.
Hi, Sean Patrick.
Sean Patrick, you are the super fan.
So. I mean, we are microcasting to
basically
Sean Patrick and my mom. Good old SP. He's the best.
He is. SP Lovecraft. So we will sign off. If you enjoy the show, please let us know at Podsothoth on Twitter, or you can email us at hideous@podsothoth.club. That's hideous@podsothoth.club.